It's about time. Honestly, it's been forever. It's been forever. But hello everyone, and welcome to the video. Welcome to another recording. It is I, your Lord, your Master, your Savior, Mediaphile, and I am here on the channel known as Myths and Magic. So on this channel, we talk about the theories of magic, of myths, of old, of legend, and I am absolutely a bit meh right now, but you know what? I felt as though it was important for me to do a video because it has been quite some time. So I've been waiting for the right opportune time to discuss certain things, research certain topics. It's been, something of, a task, a chore, but honestly, for all of you, it is absolutely worth it. So, quickly, I just want to say hello to all my rejects, my knights, my ladies, my winners, my wizards, my losers, my lizards, my mages, my clowns, my morons. That's a new one. And of course, my rats. Welcome again, and I'm so happy to have you. So, some things have been happening recently of late. I've noticed that I, for one, have not been uploading, but like I said, life sort of gets in the way. I'm in the process of trying to find a way to, I believe, increase my funds so that I can do more better things, not only for this video, but for myself in person. Recently, I started diving into something known as, I think, glamour magic. Yes. Something of that nature. Like I said before, I've made things like jewelry, things like rooms to put on jewelry, on pendants, and on amulets or whatever. But honestly, it's something that I enjoy doing as a pastime. And yes, I do tend to sell my wares. I may or may not put something like a picture or reference in here at some point. Just for all of you to see. So, in the last video, I remember specifically that I spoke about the concept of God or what God is. Now, I won't be going into that for this video precisely. I want to sort of, take it back from that, analyze it a bit more, have more things come, because I've thought of a lot of things since then. I've researched a lot of things since then, but my mind wants to talk about something else today. You don't want to have the same thing the day after, even though it's been quite some time since the last time I've uploaded, But it's simply that. So, but there's been a lot of things happening. In my realm, of course, in the world itself, I feel as though the spirits are restless in a certain degree. People are sort of trying to find themselves. There's a lot of things happening in the mundane world that I don't like, but it's something that I myself have to deal with. And I am, struggling through it. I'm putting my best foot forward because that is all we can do in these certain situations. I still have my rings. Well, most of them. I can't find the other one. I suspect someone must have taken it. Philip. He's standing over there, by the way. I have the camera here, the scry, whatever you want to call it. I have it here in front of me. I thought it was a bit of an angle. I'm trying to do something with the background where I don't have too much light, because even though it's in the back, even though it's whatever, lit, not as much as this one, for some reason the camera can't seem to differentiate between the two sources, and my videos come out lacking in quality, which is something I cannot have at all. I cannot tolerate that. There's a lot of things I could point towards. A lot of things I'm trying to get, underway. The school is going all right. The classes are normal. It's almost becoming a little bit mundane at this point, but I'm honestly happy for them. The hybrid students are flourishing to a certain degree. Are there scuffles from time to time? Yes, that is unavoidable. That happens, especially with younglings. But I'm simply dealing with it. So, there's that sort of thing to worry about, to work on. But honestly, I'm just so happy to be in front of all you wonderful, beautiful, and ugly faces again. Oh my god, it's been so lonely, it's been so mundane here. Not being able to upload anything, not being able to talk about anything at all with anyone of any that has any semblance of wisdom or intelligence. Honestly, it's quite fascinating, the sort of things I have to deal with. Right before the shoot, I thought I lost a mask. I was going to wear a different one, but luckily I decided to check in the special storage compartment. So here, you can see, I have the crown, which I will talk about in a later video. The significance of the crown, what it is, everything, but I'm pretty sure you all pretty much have an idea. My potion bottles are in there, still empty. There's nothing in this. Will there be? Yes, at some point, but I'm thinking about maybe making it a collab or something like that. Something fun and interactive. Perhaps something a bit more, I don't know, exciting, or perhaps laid back. Who knows? I'm excited, I'm happy, but without further more delay, I have here in my possession my grimoire / journal. In here I have certain things recorded, theories mostly, practices, studies, and things of that nature. However, today I'm going to talk about something quite important. I'm going to just read over the few lines if I can. I was trying to go over this again because it's been quite some time since I've sort of wrote in this script, since I've sort of read this script at all. But like I said, it is, for encryption purposes. You don't want anyone stealing your ideas after all. Yeah, so here I have the contents. I have things like the basics. I have things like the rules, things like, runes, like your do's and don'ts. Don't be stupid. That's the one rule I remember a professor giving us, A lot of things, practices, practitioners, theories or applications. Yes, so that's pretty much important. Magic and mana, we sort of discussed that. Rules, sort of discussed that, and I'm reading these, by the way. Yes, I wrote those. You're welcome. Let's see, runes, by the way. Yes. So, well, I believe I can go into runes quite a bit because I believe there's some sort of overlap, some sort of, misunderstandings. Oh my God. Oh, the hair demon. Oh no, but seriously. Yes, so runes. I'm going to be talking a bit today about runes, sigils, and glyphs, or grams, even though they're technically different. But I'll go into the differences later. So runes, as we understand it, are simply, well, actually, I have it right here. So let me read it for you first, just to prove that I am indeed doing my, homework. And this is based off of how it is used in my realm. I know it changes from realm to realm, or perhaps from universe to universe, or whatever it is. But I believe it is important to mention. So going into runes, characters designed to contain, invoke, or release spells or magical forces or types of energy. So I believe that's somewhat of an accurate assessment when it comes to things like runes. So runes, as we understand it, for example, the letter A can be its own rune. You have the runes that were in the Norse region of your world, things like, what you see for things like Vikings or Northmen of that nature. They have certain runes, and these runes sort of have meanings. A similar way as to how you would have the Chinese characters. These things sort of mean something, but it is done in a way where it looks like it's one thing, or sometimes something separate. Those, in a certain sense, can be interpreted as runes. They serve to, do what it is you want them to do. However, runes tend to, traditionally speaking, be a type of shape or perhaps some sort of type of, a character of lines or things of nature to sort of call back to sort of house certain types of energies. And that's what I'm going to get into, the things about sigils or glyphs or things like grams. They work on a similar nature, but they are different. Some are used to enhance and, like I said, provide certain effects in spells or whatever. So yes, but runes, let me read it again so that I am aware of what I wrote, so that I'm properly grasping this. Characters designed to contain, invoke, or release spells or magical forces. Yeah, so that's pretty much what runes are typically for. Runes are sort of a callback. They can serve as a warning as well, but that is pretty much the general term. Now, runes, for example, can also incorporate things like sigils, can incorporate things like glyphs. I want to sort of separate them because they are different words that sort of have different sort of meanings or behaviors, depending on what you're using them for. And it is quite important for you to understand not only the differences, but the applications thereof. Okay, so there's that version. Okay, so otherwise, so that's runes. So I will go into sigils next. So sigils, believe it or not, sigils are, well, compared to runes, they are compound runes or characters designed to gather. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Certain types of energy. Yes, that's pretty much yeah. Let me read it again because honestly, it's the weather. Honestly, I don't know what it is. It's always this mask. I feel like it's cursed. Oh my God, cursed items on my shop. I'm just joking. No, but seriously, sigils are compound runes or characters designed to gather certain types of energies. So sigils in my realm are used to sort of gather the energies within a certain region, within a certain space. Sigils can also serve as a warning, but they're sort of meant to sort of call forth something or to promote something, the sort of energies in an area. So, for example, If you wanted something like good dreams or whatever, you would put a sigil over your bed that is designed with the sole purpose of gathering certain positive types of energy for things like dreaming. And you would sort of, invoke the forces or whatever, and then you would, sort of gather the energy, gather the certain types of, forces that sort of help promote that sort of thing. You can pretty much put a sigil on anything and anywhere. A sigil can also be sort of like a logo for all of you to sort of understand. But sort of any shape that perhaps bring you a certain type of joy or that invoke a certain type of emotion can be interpreted as a sigil, but you would place it in a specific area that you want it to take effect in. So for example, let's say, the letter X is meant to, promote, lustful desires or things of that nature. So you would essentially create a sigil. And you can even put runes in it if you want, because a sigil can be a compound of certain runes put together. And the runes themselves within that sigil help amplify the effects in theory. And because each one has a significance and each one has an intention. And so behind the intention, behind the meditation or whatever you're doing to help you conjure up the sort of energies, you then infuse it and imbue it into the sigil itself. And so that's how the sigils work in that instant. I have another definition. For example, here it says sigils can also, let me see here, be used to invoke, contain, release more complex spells. This can also serve as a warning. Yes. So that's pretty much what sigils can also be used for. Like I said, sigils are meant to promote certain types of energies, even negative ones that are meant to release or bind. Sigils have the power of that doing. Now, I must stress that sigils not also, you have to really focus and you have to concentrate when you're trying to imbue these sigils with this sort of type of positive energy. For them to take enough effect. Do what you need to do. If you use things like herbs, if you use things like incense, if you use anything to sort of amplify, even if you have, communings with spirits of that nature, you can ask for them to help in this process. However, this should come from you because it is of your part, it is of your spirit nature, it is of your person. And it works better when you're trying to attune the sigil or you're trying to attune the rune to yourself, to your body. It sort of responds better in that way, because if you're trying to get good dreams of that nature, things of that sort are, what's it called? They are affected differently by person. They can mean different things to different types of people. So it is better if it comes from you when you're sort of doing these things. You can have a person help you with this sort of thing. You can ask a person for help, someone that is wizened in these sort of, matters, like myself, for example. And you would then sort of try to imbue the intention into the thing and concentrate and meditate on it heavily. It would take some time to attune it. Not everyone is as experienced, but it can help further strengthen what you have. And if you add an additional sigil with that, one sometimes combine sigils together, compound sigils, then you can sort of go into a more complex, a more stronger type of enforcement or reinforcement. And believe it or not, that sort of goes into the next portion. Things like glyphs or grams. Okay, so I'm not sure if I spoke of it beforehand, but glyphs and grams are something that we are familiar with. For example, the very famous one was pentagrams or the hexagrams. A five-pointed star, 4-pointed star, 6-pointed star, whatever. These are geometrical shapes or like grams used because it is believed in a theoretical sense that they help gather and concentrate and stabilize. That is the function of these grams and these glyphs. They are meant to stabilize the spells or the runes or whatever you're using them in. Things like sigils. Sigils can function extraordinarily well when they are paired with something like this, a glyph or a gram of some kind. Now, there's different types. You have something a bit more, whimsical. Like I said, it's better if they come from you. But a lot of people that want to seek stability seek something like geometry. I won't go into the Kabbalah thing. I could go into that later. But it's not just in that. Like I said, it's a lot. But it's the theory that, mathematics or things like maths are sort of, intrinsic in the universe and are things that can, in fact, occur in nature. And they are sort of designed, I guess, by a cosmic sense or perhaps in a deific sense or dietic, to sort of promote the energies that are within that said gram. It's a bit hard to explain because it can get quite extensive and quite, it gets crazy. It's a bit exaggerated. But it's a belief system that, it is sort of the thing that is required to sort of enable the energies of the universe and allow us to communicate with it and enable them to sort of, go through the air and to sort of absorb them into these sort of grams. And these grams can help either amplify, decrease, or just house certain types of things. For example, the pentagram, it's a symbol that a lot of witches things use because it's a stable symbol. You can't build a house on a weak foundation. The same thing applies to spells. If your intention is weak, if your power is weak, if if what you're doing itself doesn't have a strong enough foundation, the spell can either not work or go awry. Okay, so that's why you have to make sure that you are using something as a basis, for what you are doing, especially if you are beginning. It is very good to start off with something more structured, and the more seasoned, wizards or whatever you want to call them, mages, they also employ the help and the aid of these certain types of glyphs or grams because it's somewhat foolproof. Can other grams sort of override other grams? Yes, but each gram or glyph, for example, has different characteristics and strengths, and different types of symbolisms. When you have some different stars or things of that nature, the points, the numbers, the numerology that you incorporate with everything else, it's very complex, but these can help to either, like I said, amplify or decrease or anything else. You can even use them to combine with other things like grams or glyphs. But that sort of thing is very important to understand when you're trying to create something like sigils, for example. And this is actually not a call out. I'm not calling anyone else. I'm not even sure what you are calling it. But yes, I do watch other practitioners online. Things like Hearthwitch, love her. Witch of Wanderlust especially. And I remember I saw her. I believe her name is Olivia. Hello, Olivia. I doubt you'll see this. But it's mostly theoretical. This channel. Uh, like I said, it is something quite interesting. So she was speaking about sigils, and what she says, I absolutely agree with. I honestly can't even remember anything I did not agree with, but it is pretty much yes, exactly that. I believe she explained it, I believe, the way she could, how she feels, how she experiences it. And it's important to sort of describe or differentiate the fact that, like I said, their purposes and their uses differ from, mage to mage. Like I said, me, I take a more analytical approach, something a bit more mathematical, scientific with those certain aspects, but I don't always. It's very good to create your own types because, like I said, you're imbuing this sort of sigil. It's a signature for you. It's how you're able to call forth the energies, and how it also allows the energies or the spirits, if you're trying to communicate with them or use them in your craft, to understand that it is you. Different people have sort of different voices, different mannerisms. The spirits can help identify with this, sort of figure things out. The same thing with energies, and it is something that you have to use in order to sort of, allow this, confidence to go back and forth. You don't want to just talk to anyone, to strangers. You don't want to interact with just anyone, strangers. You don't know their intentions, and you don't know how they work. A friend does. And so it makes the process of utilizing energy and spirits a lot easier. Yes. So going into glyphs quickly. So glyphs, as I wrote down here, let me see. Glyphs. Geometrical structures with the purpose of transmitting command of spells. I mean, let me read it again. Geometrical structures with the purpose of transmitting commands and spells. So that's what I use for glyphs. That's not entirely wrong, but it's not inherently correct. Like I said, this was written a while ago. I don't want to say 10 years. No, when I was going through, like I said, people have different ideas. They can, so a glyph, for example, like I said, I might as well finish the definition here. Like I said, let me see. Typically used to house complex spells or sigils. Yeah, so for me, how we do this, at least from my realm, is that whenever we create a glyph can house a sigil in it. It's helped to amplify. This is sort of advanced spell work things here. They are used for things like commands, and the reason for that is because glyphs in my realm, like sigils, it's a shorter, but they help sort of create or cement that bond you have by creating sigils with your own type of signature or whatever. Um, Sigils or runes can go inside of a glyph, or a gram. I'm trying to use those things, sort of interchangeably. They don't have to be exactly the same. I'm just trying to explain it in a way where people can sort of understand what I'm talking about. When you have something like, let's say, for example, you have a hexagram. Okay, you have a 6-pointed star within a circle. Okay, that's the basis. Some people say the wisdom of Solomon or God or whatever you want to call it. Even though Solomon would technically be an 8-pointed star, would be the prophetic star of Solomon, whatever you call it. These sort of things can house extreme magical energies within them. So within those, for example, you have that type of gram, right? But within the gram, you can put other things like runes or symbols of that nature. It sort of decorates itself, amplify the gram itself to take an advanced form of magic or an advanced form of, performing certain types of magic. Within them, you can put compound spells, compound sigils, and, they have the purpose of, amplifying, like I said, or decreasing or whatever. And like I said, they bear signature. They don't have to be for commands precisely, but they are meant to sort of, like I said, invoke or do all these sort of things. They're sort of analogous in their terms or in their definitions. Glyphs don't have to be grams though. Glyphs can actually be pictures, characters on a wall or on the floor that take up their own meaning. You can actually, believe it or not, people think this is crazy, but I've seen it work, believe it or not. You can actually draw perhaps a weird oblong shape. Let's say you draw like a splat shape or you draw the shape of an animal or something. The animal is the shape of the animal. This is where it gets funky. The shape of the animal itself can sort of transform or sort of take on different properties and spells you put within it. If you put runes or sigils within the shape of an animal itself, you sort of not only give the sigil itself an organic form or an identity, but you sort of give it a type of behavior. And certain behaviors can be determined by what kind of shape you give the gram you're using or the glyph you're using, especially when you're trying to add on different types of runes or sigils. It even works for sigils as well. And it's quite fascinating, and I believe you should try it. It's quite interesting when you sort of try to put these things together. But for example, you have a bird shape, and like let's say when you put the sigil, the rune onto that working, you're sort of enabling the thing to sort of, I guess, flow freely, to flow swiftly. You're giving it behaviors of a bird to act in a certain way that you believe will work to your favor. That is probably why I sort of included the theory of commanding, because when you essentially put something like, perhaps if you put it into a dog, you're enabling the spell to work like a dog does, to be obedient, loyal, to be strong, swift, intelligent, or to sort of help adapt itself in a certain way. It can even work with things like insects or things like that. You want to be smaller, bigger, how much of an area to cover. It enables you to sort of allow the glyph to travel. But this is advanced stuff, and it can take an immense amount of mana or concentration or energy. So I suggest that you sort of try to make a circle or something that helps you to draw energy from another source to sort of help invoke certain types of energies to allow you to work in a more efficient manner, because honestly, these things are important when you're trying to, do these sort of practices or crafts. The next thing I'm going to be talking about here, in response to everything else, the elements. Yes, so this is quite important. So people like to incorporate elements with sigils, with things like grabs or anything else. Wiccans use it. Other types of people use it. Even religious people use these certain types of things. Even things like candles, things like water, oil. All of these things are ingredients or compounds or components that are used in certain types of crafts or spells. Now, for example, I will be trying to read this to you. So, in terms of elements, it says commonly known as the origin material. That's what we call it. But it's also known as founding material. Founding and origin material. Again, it comes from myself, but that's what the elements pertain to. In components, consisting of water, air, earth, and fire, etc. It doesn't have to be those same elements. Those are those are the most common. Those are the most common elements and things or components used in spellcraft. Why? Because they are the raw forms of their own elements, but there are many other different types. Dark is an element, light is an element. Spirits can also be considered an element as well. Energy flows through these elements, but energy itself can sort of be considered a type of element. When I mean founding materials or origin materials, it's from where all the materials that we have present or substances come to fruition. These are the fathers and mothers, or whatever you want to call them, of what we have today. Things like light sources, things like wood, plastic, whatever it is, anything that you use within your craft is a derivative or is a descendant of the founding material or the origin material, which is the elements, the basic elements: earth, water, fire, and air. These sort of things have energy within themselves and they work independently within the world. And so when you're using these sort of things, you have to keep in mind that these things are inherently imbued with their own mana and their own type of sense. The earth itself has energy, okay? And like I did before in a theoretical video about spirits and what spirits are essentially hubs of energy with awareness, where they become self-aware, where they have intelligence, where they have identity. When energy takes up those characteristics, they manifest themselves in things like spirits, and over time they interact. People themselves, like I said, because we are born, because we ourselves are descendants of of founding material, origin material, we have those same characteristics, which also allows us to be able to commune and to be able to combine or utilize these sort of energies, because we have a wavelength that they recognize, that the energy recognizes. So it allows us to be able to perform our craft and to use it in a certain way that perhaps something like a robot can inherently use. However, even a robot is made with founding materials. So that sort of thing is important. And I have things like substances, but like I said, it all sort of derives from the same thing. Substances are pretty much components, pieces of the whole. And all of these sorts of things are things that you use for your craft, things like salt or whatever. But the reason why I mentioned all of these different points is because they can all be used within the family of glyphs, grams, and sigils, because they can all be used interchangeably within one another. So rules you have to understand, sigils you have to understand, grams you have to understand, glyphs, even things like elements, all of these sort of things involve energy. They involve concentration, they involve focus. And all of them require a sort of stability when they're being used, which is why some people use geometrical figures like stars, or they use squares or triangles. All of these things help to add stability to whatever spell work you're doing, your craft that you're doing. So it is very important to keep that in mind. I highly recommend, for those of you who are starting out, or even for those who are seasoned, who like it, who prefer it, to use them, and if you already do, to amplify their effects by incorporating things like sigils and runes around them. But be smart about how you incorporate them. Make sure that you are imbuing the runes or the sigils that you are creating with your type of energy, with your intention, with your will, when you're working it into your craft. Make sure you're putting them in good spots. Make sure that they're not conflicting with one another, because it could, theoretically speaking, mess with how the spell you're trying to work with is going to act out. So all of these things are very important for you to use and to understand and to incorporate, So I am so happy to talk to you finally about these sort of things, about these theories, things that I am doing. I highly recommend you guys getting one of these things, marking your theories, your practices, your ideas into these sort of things. Remember that I care for you, that Pahalu cares for you, that the energies that love you also care for you. You have families and friends here that are willing to listen, willing to understand, willing to love and accept whatever messed up person you are. Unless if you're too messed up, then I can't help you. If you're on hybrid watching, remember that we have classes starting Tuesday, I believe 10 a.m. because no one likes waking up early. If you're there towards the end, we do have a dead shift that probably lasts about 2 to 3 hours. It begins around midnight and it ends around, a witching hour, whatever. We're going to have drinks there, coffee, whatever. Make sure you're going to school on time. Okay, don't talk to any strangers. You can have friends, that's all fine, but remember to work. And even behave yourselves, because I understand you're young, you're virile, you are willing and able, and you are wanting a bit too much. So I don't have any more issues with parents, okay? Make sure you're working in safety with kindness, that you are practicing safe, whatever it is, that you are, doing this stuff safety, that you are feeding your mind as well as your body. You know, there's a lot of fat asses out there, but you know what? As long as you're absorbing the energy and you're aware of that, I suppose that's the first step in healing, or whatever you call it. I urge all of you to please research these things ahead of time more deeply. Make sure that you are consulting other people that perhaps do these sort of things. That you check out the people that I mentioned, Hearth Witch, or, Witch of Wanderlust. I will try to, put them in here for, further things for you to understand, to see. And those are just two of the many other YouTubers out there that do these sorts of things. I respect what they are doing. It is a very niche subject. Like I said, almost nobody's watching this. But if you are, Pahalu bless you, I bless you, and I'm happy for it. For those of you who are just tuning in, I talk about other things, not just, things like magic or myths. I talk about current events, I talk about things like myths. I talk about things like, current things happening, drama, whatever it is, even things like movie and even things like anime. But I didn't want to simply focus on just one aspect. So it's a hodgepodge of things. But for the most part, we talk about things like myths and magic or legends or whatever. So, every now and then I'll throw a curveball out there just to see if all of you like it and enjoy it. I could make a separate channel, but honestly, I don't want to be all over the place. I already have another channel for gaming. That's a separate thing, a separate issue. Will I put it in here for you to see? Maybe, if you're into that sort of thing. But I'd have to know in the comments. But honestly, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember that I love you. We all love you, and we should. And remember that when you practice these sort of things, practice with knowledge, care, and safety. Goodbye.